Well, hello and welcome. I'm surrounded by two of my dearest friends, some new, some older. So excited to have industry titans with us in the DeviceTalks recording studio. But I'm here with Beth Harrison Meyer of Aptyx. And first and foremost, I wanted to say congratulations on your new promotion.
Thank you.
So tell us, how did that come about? I know you've been integral in Aptyx rebranding, but you're getting recognized, and I'm so thrilled about that. So please walk us through your promotion, and then we'll touch on branding.
Sure. So I've been with Aptyx about 14 months, and about a year in, I was promoted from Vice President of Global Marketing to Senior Vice President of Global Marketing. And I think it really just comes down to the rebrand that we're going to talk about. It's been wildly successful.
Well, it's so well-deserved. I know that Emira would agree with me. Just the attention to detail, the way that you think about branding and marketing, and the vision that you have brought through with Aptyx is very clear to your style. So again, congratulations.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the rebranding a bit. So over the last several months, DeviceTalks has had the privilege of hearing the Aptyx story and its rebrand. And I want to, if you could just kind of touch on that experience, why you started the rebranding process, which is quite a risk, and where we are today and what that looks like.
Sure. Would love to. So I was hired in actually to work on the rebrand. And what started it was that Aptyx in late 2022, which was not then Aptyx, we were Molded Devices. They were purchased by private equity. Shortly thereafter, they made the first acquisition of Global Med, a leader in extrusion for respiratory anesthesia and smoke evacuation. And really, the private equity company, TrueArc, had this vision to build a new kind of manufacturing company. And to really bring that vision to life, it was felt that rebranding was necessary, and they recruited me at that time to come in. And it was just a wonderful opportunity to come and build something new in Medtech, and especially with what the vision was. So we chose to rebrand because, first it was looking at rebranding, but not necessarily a name change. But then we decided that a name change was really what was needed, because so much of what makes a company like ours successful is the culture. And so bringing everyone along together with who we now are was critical. So that's what set us down the path of doing not just a rebrand, but a new name. And so Aptyx brings together the aptitude and excellence of more than a dozen companies with a 70-year track record in manufacturing. And, it really represents the vision of what we want to be, because it is a big, bold name. But at the same time, it honors the legacy of all the companies that have come before.
Well, very well said. And Emira, I know that you've been able to see the transition over the last several months on the webinar side and getting kind of the education of, the experience of 70 years from all of the Aptyx, what would we call them? Individual organizations that came together as one.
It was more than a dozen companies.
Founding members. I love that. That's perfect. Any insights into seeing this evolution and the change?
I think that it's been really cool. I think that I came on right as this was beginning. And so it was really interesting for me to watch the progression being newer to the industry. It was something that I was able to see it go from lots of little pockets, rather, I guess, of people all coming together, finding that unity under Aptyx. And it's been a really cool experience. And I'm going to pop in with a question here about this. I'm curious, for people who are looking to maybe do some rebranding, this was a big one. It was done well. If you could go back 6 months, maybe a year, and tell yourself something about this rebrand that you didn't see coming, what would it be?
I don't know if there's something I didn't see coming, but I would say is I would do things very similarly, because what we did is use a systems approach. And, this is used in not just branding, it's in many areas, but really thinking about strategy, because the brand has to represent the company strategy, the stakeholders, all of the stakeholders, from customers to team members to owners, et cetera. And then what's the story we wanted to tell? And then use all of that, and then a cross-functional team. And then it was just a series of processes we went through to really build up what we stand for and where we want to be. And so what are the pieces to make that come to life?
That really is so systematic, but important. And I love how you're taking a collective, then finding out what is the important messaging behind that, and then how do you amplify and communicate that message. How was that process in trying to decide what was your mission?
So we actually redid or reimagined, I would say, our vision, our mission, and our values as part of this process. And I'll step back for a second, because when you do a rebrand or you come up with a name and a logo, I mean, it's important to understand that a brand is more than a name and a logo. A brand is a promise. And a
Love
good
I know, I love that.
it's a promise of what you're going to deliver to your customers, to your team members, and to your other stakeholders. And a good brand is a promise kept. So now when you ask me about mission, well, your vision, your mission, and your values, and especially your values, because they inform how you act every day. And that's the guiding light for your team. And we're in a service business. So our team, ultimately, how they behave, how we interact with customers, that's what our brand is. So all of that fed in to what we want to be.
That is so inspiring. And I think it really shows how our industry communicates together and tries to move health together. Because I've been saying it all day, but together we're stronger than we are separate.
Yes.
And I love how you're talking about values as being a key factor in keeping this promise. So one of the things about that, so I've known you for quite some time, and through different roles within the medical device industry. I'm coming in onto my 19th year. And what always brings me back to you is your passion, your enthusiasm, and your authenticity. So I have to assume that that is one of the reasons why you are a great leader. So the question for you is, how did you rally the troops, if you will? How did you get everybody else on board with this systematic approach, trying to distill down your values and your mission? I mean, it has to be one voice to get everybody else excited. So how did you do that?
It's true. We do need to get everybody rallied around. But when you go through this approach and you get everyone's input and, different levels, I mean, we talk to people from operators on the line through to the CEO, to the owners of the company, of course, customers, but all of those inputs came in. And we did something called a collective dream. And we really said, okay, in 2026, if we're successful, what are the things that would have happened? And it was like, a lot of Post-its of all the types of things that would happen. And then we organized those and said, okay, these are the things that need to be true. This is how we're going to move forward. And then it's just a lot of, communication, like, this is what we stand for. This is what we want to be. This is why we have the right to do all of this. What's the expertise in the company, the capabilities, the history. And then, people have been nothing but excited because it's something they can all rally around and feel like they are a part of.
Right. How could they not be? They were a part of this. They helped to bring this to life. So you've got that buy-in from every level, from every part. So that, of course you've been successful. We're not surprised.
I mean, I want to continue talking about the rebranding. So one last sort of thought before we shift to DeviceTalks Boston and kind of why you're here today. But we talked about what that process looked like. It was a very collective process and everybody had a buy-in. And I think that's really, really important. Today, do you feel as though, and this is a very general, broad question, but do you feel as though the rebrand is being accepted by the industry and that you're moving forward in the way that you were hoping to move forward?
100%. We've gotten feedback from our internal team, from our customers, from other people in the industry, competitors. I mean, it's all been really positive. So with something we'll always have to work on. I mean, building a company, building a culture, it never stops, but definitely off to an amazing start.
Congratulations again for you personally, for your team, and for what you represent. We are such fans. We are.
Yep. Thank you.
So I'll leave it to Emira. Do you want to kind of walk us through what DeviceTalks Boston with Aptyx looks like? And
yes, so Aptyx has been a huge part of putting together DeviceTalks Boston. I mean, really, you are such a huge part of DeviceTalks in general, not just DeviceTalks Boston. And one of the things that I am most excited about is the Women in Medtech Breakfast, which you are a sponsor of for tomorrow morning. So let's talk about that.
Would love to. So I'm super excited about it too, because as you know, we did the Medtech Women podcast series and now we're doing this. And, it makes sense on so many levels. But first, let's talk stats. I know you both know this, but about half the workforce half the population is female. About half the workforce in Medtech is female. Less than a quarter of the executive jobs are held by women. So, that's a challenge. And then coming back to, we were talking about values earlier. There are two of ours that really bring me back to the women in Medtech. One is collaborative partnership. So, that's something that's come up quite a bit, of course, in all your interviews. But, part of that is about having open, transparent relationships inside and out. But another part of that value, the way we have it written, is that we listen, respect, and we speak up. And so I think that's something that really ties back. And then the other is growth mindset. And of course, that's about growing, learning something new every day, being curious, but it's also, the way we have the value written, about celebrating the diversity, expertise, and experience that each of us brings as we're trying to solve our customers' problems. And of course, here, our customers' problems are about helping improve people's lives. So it's just so important, and it's just really a part of who we are. So I can't be more thrilled to support it.
We are so honored, and I've said this personally behind closed doors and amplifying it now to our entire audience, that Medtech Women Talks in particular would not have happened without Aptyx support. The Medtech Women Breakfast, Women in Medtech Breakfast, would not have happened without Aptyx support. We went from green light, okay, Kayleen, you've been communicating how important this is for our industry to have these senior leaders come together to have a conversation and have a safe place to do that. They said, okay, let's do it. We need to get support. I'm like, okay. So first call was made, immediate support. They said, you have 4 weeks to try to get this room completely filled. 4 days later, our 100-seat room reached capacity, and we have a wait list of 60 plus incredible female leaders. So actually, we spent 3 weeks saying no, which was not the part of my day that I really enjoyed. But what it did tell me, and I think what it tells all of us, is that there's not just an appetite for having a hunger, exactly, and a need. And the first thing that leadership out of DeviceTalks said, once they looked at the numbers 4 days later, they went, this is something we're going to do at every event. We're going to invest in a bigger space. We're going to invest in more opportunities, because they saw the hunger and they knew that with or without support, we were still going to do it. And we were still going to move forward. We found us. Yes. I love that. I love that so much.
I think it's great. I think that it's so exciting for, especially, as we have students here today who are helping volunteer, a lot of those students are female. And so it's so exciting to think like they get to come in, they get to see, they get to rub shoulders and rub elbows with all of these amazing leaders in the medtech space that they can look at and think, oh, I can do that too. And that's really exciting, because it's pushing our industry further into the future, making it more inclusive, bringing more women into that conversation, hopefully bringing more women into those leadership roles. And that is a really exciting thing for me.
Very well said. So I had mentioned that I'm coming onto my 19th year in the industry, and I had attended shows like this for many, many years. Multiple times a month, I would attend different shows. And it took 5 years until I saw myself on stage. And I remember this moment for the rest of my life. And I'm sitting the audience, and I won't mention the person. I don't want to embarrass her. But she was on a venture capital panel. She was smack dab in the middle. And I went, me. I saw me. And it was the very first time I had this idea in my head that I can be on stage. I can have a voice. I can communicate what's important to me and represent women in general, and do it in a responsible way. And that was and it's 5 years. And we're talking about, again, almost 20 years ago. Now we see a lot more female leaders, which is amazing. We have a lot more to go, as you mentioned, with the medical design and outsourcing statistic, which is really fantastic. But I think that the conversation now has shifted to responsibilities. Everybody has a responsibility. So the narrative before has been, as a senior leader, your responsibility is to pull those who aren't senior up and to try to provide those opportunities. I think the new conversation, or a thought that I'd like to pose, everybody has a responsibility here. And Beth, at the very, very beginning, you said speak up, and that caught my attention. So those who maybe are not in senior positions, I challenge you, I'm gonna look right in the camera for this. You're not in a senior position. I challenge you to speak up. I challenge you to ask for a seat on that venture capital panel. I challenge you to go to your senior leadership and don't say, what can I do to be you? Say, here's my action plan. Let's have these meetings so we can check in with each other and have progress. This is where I want to be. How can we do this together? So what are your thoughts with that, Beth?
Yeah.
The State of the Union has changed.
I think that's a fantastic idea. I mean, it is very much we have to advocate for ourselves. And then we also, as you said, help those around us. And it does take a plan. I mean, wishing doesn't make things so. But having conversations like with senior leaders, with others, really understanding what success looks like and how you can get there and what are the levers and how you can contribute, that's how we move everything forward.
Exactly.
And I think this is a great example of why this Women in Medtech breakfast is so exciting, because this is exactly that space. We as women especially are so much more comfortable to step up when those that we are stepping up to look like us, they think like us, and we can see ourselves in them. And so we feel more confident in our own shoes to do exactly that. And so this is a great opportunity for those kinds of conversations.
Very much agreed. So I'm going to round us out with kind of a last question that goes into this vein. It's actually more of advice. So Beth, I'm going to ask you to give advice to potentially female leaders in the space. What advice do you have to be what you can't see or be what you can not even envision right now? So you're speaking to females in the medical device space. What advice do you have for them?
I think it's first, you just really have to understand what your own desires are, because at the end of the day, when you work so much, I mean, that you have to enjoy, there has to be a passion, it has to be something that clicks. So really take the time to understand that. And then you want an organization where the culture fits with what you want to do, with the mission aligns with that. And then it's about having those conversations. But if you don't know your own true self, it's very hard to move forward.
Very well said.
And I think that's a good point to bring it back to Aptyx, finding a place that has a culture that matches with what you are looking for and what you want to be. So Aptyx is not done. We don't end with Aptyx at DeviceTalks Boston. In fact, we have a webinar coming up in two weeks. I think it's like 2 weeks.
It is. 13 days.
Yes,
exactly.
exactly. So tell us about what we can expect to see in the webinar.
Sure. So this one is all about molding, but not just molding. It's around the expertise that's resident in the company and how that deep expertise takes technology and really finds a new way to solve things so that we can help our customers get to market faster. So we have a gentleman, Ray Scherer, who's the main person from Aptyx, who will be in it. And we call him the Great Ray Dini.
I love that.
Because he...
So when I meet him, I can say, okay, I'm getting to meet the Great Ray.
Exactly. The Great Ray Dini. And then he's going to be joined by Brian Pelly from Autodesk, who... they have Mold Flow, which is, of course, famous in the business. But again, all about that collaboration and partnership. And we're going to really talk through how to solve critical problems with molding, warp in particular, so that we keep getting great products to market faster to help improve patient lives.
Fantastic. Well, we will have that link for you so you can register. Even if you're watching this later and you didn't have the opportunity to catch our webinar live, it will be available on demand, and we'll make sure that we link that as well.
And I'll be there. Beth Harrison Meyer of Aptyx, thank you very much for joining us in the DeviceTalks recording studio. I can't wait for tomorrow. And again, deepest appreciation for all of your support.
Well, thank you for having me. And it is just a privilege to work with DeviceTalks. Great group. And of course, the industry is the best.
Thanks, Beth.
Thank you.